It's Arukh HaShulchan. You're there, Simon Lamed Vav, Sif Mem Aleph to Mem Dalet. This is Supplemental Day 221 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. Mem Aleph. We are of the opinion that something which is missing in the inside of the lung is not considered to be missing. It doesn't make difference if it's the internal missing piece was born that way, or whether it happens through an illness. That's the Bach. If a lung is spilling around like a pitcher full of water, means the flesh of the lung is dissolved. Is in the membranes. And it can be spilled from beginning to end, and be from end to beginning. Inside the membranes, missing. It's missing substance. Because an issue is completely full of substance. Now half of it is empty. That's Rashi's pshat. But the membrane is intact. V'bori, and it's healthy. V'tov, and good. And it inflates properly. Even if only the upper membrane is intact. Rambam. It's good for the Rambam. And test for Shulchan Aruch, see if you find ayin sham. Specifically the bronchial tubes have not been damaged. They stand in their place. They're not dissolved. If even one bronchial tube is dissolved, it is treif. So how do you check it? We puncture the lung. And we spill it into a vessel. Shushua bavar, which is smooth with lead. Shechalaka is, lined with lead. Shechalaka which is smooth. And everything can be seen well. Okay, it's a bizarre. Is anything similar? A clean and white vessel. If you see white streaks inside this goo. So you know that the bronchial tubes have dissolved and it's straight. You laugh and it's not, I guess it's just reddish. It's only the flesh of the lung which has been dissolved. It's kosher. We're not concerned that maybe not consider maybe like we have the issue which we discussed yesterday of one bronchial tube being punctured, and the other bronchial tube not protected, which like we saw yesterday. And also that case, as we said, the flesh of the lung is not going to protect. Well, also I should say in this case that whatever case you could say, because you said yesterday that the flesh would protect, that's not going to apply here. Shenimok here is dissolved. It's water. Because if you would think that the bronchial tubes are punctured, even one of them, they would dissolve. You see the vessel because that puncture indicates that the disease reached this bronchial tube. Must be that the bronchial tubes are intact. It's gone. You can't rely on this form of test today. Said Rab, unless there's extreme loss. I think it's even Rab said this. I know he didn't write Hefsed Meruba, right? Substantial loss. Could be Hefsed Rab is even greater. But Sargoro, and he adds the word Sargoro, which seems to indicate it's even greater loss than normal Hefsed Meruba. When all the experts have to gather together in order to check this case out. That's from the Simla Chadosha. Mem Gimel. The Torah writes as follows. The Rif explains Dafka. It has to be that the dissolved water is clear. If it's murky or repugnant, it's rancid, it's treifa. Says the Torah, but my father, the Rosh, said it's kosher even if they are murky or rancid. Both pages brought down Shulchan Aruch. Because Ramah writes, anybody who is adept at checking that the bronchial tubes have not dissolved, he can rely on this check to have semruba for a substantial loss. Uvem as a rifa Rambam learning tzakal din zeh. Don't mention this principle, which which is quoted here by the Torah, the name of the Rif. You don't find in the Rif itself that if they are murky or rancid, that's straight. The Torah infers this from the words. Which they wrote about bubbles. There he wrote that if they're murky or rancid, it's straight. We shall see in the next 7. This is to infer the item, according to the opinion, here it would also be applicable. Shai Poskim Shon Liskiu said the other poskim earlier. Poskim not mentioned this. Rest behind him. And truth understand. This halacha of not being murky or rancid also applies when the lung is spilled like a pitcher. Why did Ram not mention this halacha? That the liquefied lung has to be clear. Now the halachas of bubbles were written by the Rif at a great distance from the halacha of the lung, which is poured like a pitcher. Even Rambam who puts the halachas adjacent to each other. Hello, he's kidding said Nishma Kiton Kodam Dine Buos. He mentioned this halacha that of being spilled like a pitcher before he mentioned the halacha of bubbles. How line which he wrote afterwards, without revealing that applies to what was written beforehand. Furthermore, the Gemara it's clear that the bubbles are much worse than when it spills around like a pitcher. The will not be paskin by bubbles. And the master of the sugya, meaning the author of the sugya, who are sugya over here, that when it spills around like a pitcher, Rabbi Yechon. The reason is why Rabbi Yechon differentiate. So the Reish and Nishbach along which spills around like a pitcher, there's no concern with the hole. It's an internal wound in the flesh of the lung. There's no problem with a hole. The aura low local cloud, the membrane did not get affected at all. I would smoke but growth, I guess some kind of fungus that grow on account of the moisture, which collects between the hide and the flesh. We've said, I guess, between the hide of the lung and its flesh. We said and becomes lost there. Now it says mukla becomes a pus. It's very likely that the membrane is pierced through that. It looks like it's whole. And it blows up when inflated. It's a scab, and we know is no good. So how did the Torah learn, extrapolate from buos to nishbach kita? Furthermore, the source of the halacha, the Rif and the Rambam by bubbles, is from the Gemara linear in terms of a lung and a kidney. About there, but bubbles is Rashi says. I guess only talk about nishbach, not by bubbles, not by nishbach. Furthermore, the Sukkah Daf Lam Vav Shos Chazal and Bodin Be'esrog Shishbach Kikitim Din Resh Shishbach Kikitim. Let's learn that Locha is that which we do learn that Esrog, which as internally is dissolved like a pitcher of liquid. We learn out from the halacha of a lung, which is dissolved like a pitcher of liquid. For some Heya, Ma'ibisuchim. It's about where the internal fruit of the Esrog is disgusting. It's and yet nevertheless to be valid. Says you look at a crazy place. He also asks a question. That's in terms of the membranes. And in Symphonos, in terms of the Symphonos, we're going to see the opposite, not the seeds of the Esrog. Because what I assume Lamazine that will be, well, actually, no, see, not by seeds. See, the opposite is true about murky and rancid waters. If we use Lamazine, that's going to be clear in Sim Lamazine. And that's it for today.